So I just realized that my smoke detector is dying. It is chirping at me, and if you can hear that, I'm really sorry. I have got to get that replaced. I need to buy a ladder, but that's not what this video is about. Hey guys, thanks for coming back to check out another video. I am terrible at intros, so let's just try to breeze through this. And I have a hair like stuck to my lip. I can't get it, and it's over here. Okay. Always just, it never goes smoothly, does it? Anyway, there's a YouTuber on here that I absolutely love her content. Her channel name, or her name, is Rachael Stephanie. I really like her because she's very like thoughtful in her explanations to things. She's very like grounded. She just seems so friendly and kind. I absolutely love her, and I love her content. I would recommend definitely going to check her out if you've like never heard of her. I will link all of her stuff down below. I will link this video that she did down below, and hopefully I can remember to link it like up in the cards. So she came up with an eyeshadow palette tag video, and I don't really recall if she came up with these questions herself or if she just like picked and choosed. Is choosed a word? Chose. Picked and chose. English is hard. I don't remember if she like came up with these questions on her own or if she found them and like compiled her own list, but either way, it was a fun idea. She probably did this video like maybe 2-3 months ago, so I'm very late. I did film this once already, but the lighting in here was like terrible. You couldn't like really see the palettes. Like it wasn't a good quality video, and so I just chucked it. But I still really wanted to film this video just because I thought it was so much fun. So I thought it was interesting too. I had saved like the sheet of paper with like all of the answers on it that I had come up with, and when I sat down like last night and was like, oh, I'm gonna like refilm this video, I thought to myself, like, I'm not gonna pull out that original like piece of paper. I'm actually gonna think about it and see if like my answers have changed. And it's funny because some of them stayed the same, but some of them did change. I just thought that was really interesting. Like, this is the fun thing I think about makeup, is that you might be really infatuated with a product for like a really long time or like really love it, and then something else can come along and like change your mind. And I don't know, that just really is interesting to me. So without any more rambling, let's just get into this eyeshadow palette tag video. So the first question is, what was your very first eyeshadow palette? So I'm sure that I like owned like little drugstore palettes when I was younger that like maybe my mom or somebody bought for me. The first palette that I can remember buying like with my own money and everything was the ABH Modern Renaissance palette, and then this palette too. So I had to declutter the ABH Modern Renaissance palette. Like mine had some rust in pans, and I just wasn't comfortable putting that on my eyes. So that was like my original answer in the first video. But since that no longer exists in my collection, I bought the Tarte Clay Play Face Shaping Palette, the Volume 1, around the same time as I bought Modern Renaissance. So I'm going to count this as like the first eyeshadow palette that I bought. It's an all matte palette. It's got like 3 bronzers up here at the top, and then these little like trios of eyeshadow. I really love this palette. It's not a standalone palette in my collection. Like I don't ever do all matte looks, but this has been like a great companion palette, especially if I'm like playing around with single eyeshadows or with like my ColourPop Super Shock shadows, or even with, I can foresee when I pan certain like crease shades in like my Lorac Mega Pro 4 palette that I'm panning, like I could see this being like the first thing that I would go and reach for. I also really love the mirror that's in here. Like this guy lives on top of my vanity, and I use him in some way like every day, even if it is just for the mirror. This I don't know if I already said it. It has been discontinued though, I believe, so you can't like get your hands on it from Tarte anymore. But that is number 1. So number 2 is, what eyeshadow palette do you reach for the most? And so I could have put like probably the Tarte Clay Play one in as this answer, but I really wanted to have different answers for each question because I thought that that would make it like more fun and exciting. So the palette that I tend to reach for the most, like when I don't know like what I'm doing with my life, like when I just need something quick and easy, is the ABH Soft Glam palette. I absolutely love this guy. I think that it's a gorgeous, like just neutral palette, but it's very like still user friendly. You know, it just, to me, it's effortless. It doesn't take like a lot of time or effort. And I love the ABH formula. Like the shimmers in here are great, the mattes are great, and it's just, you know, it's a great palette. It's what I tend to reach for when I'm like in a rush. So there's that. Question number 3 is, if you had to get rid of a palette right now, which would it be and why? So I would actually get rid of this Rimmel London Nudes eyeshadow palette. And it's not because it's a bad one. I actually really like this. I think it's fairly well. I haven't touched every single shade in here, obviously, but I do like it. So my mom bought this for me because she thought it was a dupe palette for the Urban Decay Naked 2. And I kind of thought so too, like upon initially looking at it. But I recently, my friend gave me the Urban Decay Original Naked palette that's been discontinued. This is actually a dupe for that. So I thought that was really funny, like I was playing around with like the original Urban Decay palette, and then I was like, oh yeah, that's what this is. So I would definitely, like, if I had to, you know, or if someone that I knew in my life like wanted this palette, like I would give it to them like with no hesitation, just simply for the fact because I now own the original Urban Decay palette. So there's kind of like no real point in keeping both of them, but for now, like, they are both going to reside in my collection. So question number 4 is, do you have an emotional connection to any of your palettes? And I actually picked 2 palettes for this answer. So the first one that I'm going to show you is this little 6-pan Pat McGrath Labs palette. My friend actually bought this for me for my birthday, and it is really pretty. I really like the shimmers. The matte shades in here, I don't really, it's just like a brown and a black. I'm not like super inclined to like pull this out for them, but the shimmers in here are absolutely gorgeous. I really love this like gold shade over here, and then at the bottom here, this like more pinky shade. Those 2 are probably my favorites. But yeah, so it has an emotional connection for me because, you know, someone in my life that's important to me like bought this for me, and it just makes me really happy. So palette number 2 that I picked for this question as well is this was back when ColourPop first started doing the monochromatic palettes, and I just kept thinking and like hoping and waiting, like they're gonna do a yellow, and I got impatient and I was like, well, screw it, like I'm gonna do my own yellow palette from ColourPop. So I ordered like this Magnetic Z palette from them, and then I purchased 6 of their singles, and then the other shades that are in here are all from the Yes Please palette that they came out with. I depotted mine because it like shattered and broke. But this is like my version of a yellow palette. So obviously these smaller pans here are from the Yes Please palette, and then these 6 are like ColourPop singles that I bought. I am absolutely like in love with this. I like my version better than their yellow palette. And yes, there is like a big difference. Theirs is supposed to be like monochromatic. Mine is just more like different kind of shades and kind of colors that you would still put in like a yellow category. But I am really happy with this. It makes me very happy to look at. So I have an emotional connection to it because it was like something that I like personally sat down and picked out and tried to like arrange and make into like a perfect yellow palette, and I think I was pretty successful, at least for me. So the next question is, what palette has been the biggest waste of money in your collection? So I would have to say that it would have to be this Makeup Forever build your own 6-pan palette, and it's not because I don't like the shades in here. I think that I did a really good job like selecting shades that I really like and making like a cohesive eye palette for myself. It's just, I would have to put this in here because for 6 pans I spent like $65, I think, on this, and that was even when it was on sale, if I recall. Like Sephora had a sale on the Makeup Forever eyeshadows like back in January of 2019, I think. So for the amount of money that I paid for this and the amount of times that I've actually used it, it's just not there for me. I wish I could go back in time and like tell myself like, no, don't do it, like you really don't need it. But then to like the flip side, these are really pretty and I do really enjoy this formula. And I have hit pan in, you know, the cream shade, which, I mean, it's easy though to hit pan in a cream shade, right? At least for me. So that would be my answer to like the biggest waste of money palette. So the next palette is, what palette has been the biggest surprise for you in your collection? And so the way Rachel explained it is that this could either be something where you were like shocked that you loved it as much as you did, or like a letdown product. So I thought it was really funny because this palette was actually, when I did this the first time, I guess you just saw what palette it was. But when I did this video the first time around, I actually put this palette in as the palette that I it was either the palette I would declutter or the one that was the biggest waste of money. I think it was the waste of money, the question we just answered. So this is the ABH Sultry palette, and I have changed my mind about this. Ooh, that ring light really makes that packaging very pretty. I have changed my mind about this palette because I have found that I don't like this as a standalone palette, which seems kind of crazy. Like, it's a very nice color story, it's very cohesive, but I like to just use this, pull 1 or 2 specific shades from this to complement other palettes in my collection, and I have found a new love and appreciation for it in using it that way. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but it's now, so it answers the question, like, what was the palette that was like the most surprising to you? So this was one that I had down as like, I don't like this, like I would declutter it if I could, but it was a Christmas gift and I feel kind of bad, I want to like keep it and use it. And I'm really glad that I did, because it's surprised me, but I have found like a new appreciation for it and a new love for it. So it does have a place in my collection and in my heart now. The next question is, do you have a palette that you just never reach for? Which one and why? So I feel like when people do collabs, they put their heart, I would hope that they put their heart and soul into the collab, like make it something that they really truly enjoy. So I don't want to like speak ill of like someone's baby, essentially, you know, but I really wanted to try the Violet Voss eyeshadow formula, but I didn't want to shell out that much money for a brand, like a palette that I had never like seen or touched or, you know, had any experience with. None of my friends have a Violet Voss palette. So when this came for sale on Haute Look, I got it simply because it was Violet Voss, not because of the collab aspect. But it's the palette that they did with Nicole Concilio, I guess. I think she's here on YouTube. So I really like the formula of Violet Voss and everything, and this is a really pretty eyeshadow palette. I just never reach for it because simply like it's just not all that inspiring to me. Like, especially up here, these mattes, these, especially like these red ones, I just feel like it's variations of the same shade, and it's not enough difference for me personally. But that's the great thing about a collab. Like, it wasn't my collab, you know, it was hers. And so if those were the shades that spoke to her, like, you go, girl. But yeah, so I just never really reach for this, just simply because it is kind of uninspiring. I want to dip into this more because, like I said, I really do like the formula of Violet Voss, and I want to get use out of that. So then the last question is there a palette where you love every single shade in it? This was hard because every time I would think of a palette, like I wanted to put Soft Glam in here and I was like, no, I can't. It had a black shade that I removed from it. So I don't love every shade in that palette. But that was like the same thing that kept happening. Like all these palettes that came to mind, it was like, no, they have black shades or like these really like, I don't know, like off colored, like green or like deep teal shades that you just never use. So you can't like successfully answer that question with those. But then I remembered that I do have the Tarte Aspen Ovard palette that they did. And this palette, I must say, every single shade in here I like, and that even includes the blush and the highlighter. And it's very reflective packaging, I apologize. But the blush and the highlighter are really pretty. This blush is actually in my Roulette project pan right now. But the eyeshadows over here, it's just a very basic, soft, neutral palette. I know it's not, to most people, I guess this wouldn't be like exciting, but to me, this is like my jam. It's just nice and effortless. All the colors, I feel like they work well together. Like you can come up with so many different looks using this palette. I've never been let down by it, and I'm just really happy that I have it. And yeah, it's a palette where I absolutely love every single shade. So that's it. That's all 8 questions. If you have done this video already, please let me know below. I would love to check it out. Or if you want to, please feel free to also, you know, do your own version of the video. I know Rachel encouraged people to like take the questions and answer them themselves. So I'm finally happy that I was able to like sit down and film it and get like a good quality version of it. So I hope you guys have a really good rest of your day, and I will talk to you in the next one. Okay? Bye.